Hello and welcome to my channel Making Crafts. Today I am using Linedotarrow's newest Ephemera Fussy Cut Kit number 4, as well as the Linedotarrow Anniversary Kit. And this Anniversary Kit is huge. It has so many pages and the papers are so gorgeous. I think this is one of my favorite kits. I am planning on making a lot more projects with it, but I had so much fun using this kit in this project, and there were so many pieces that I didn't have to go searching for any ephemera pieces or anything. There was plenty to use for this project, and it's beautiful. It's got my favorite things, the butterflies and the flowers and just all the beautiful different pieces in it, and the roses. So these colors and these papers were perfect for what I am making today. And today I am going to be using them to make a mini album with a journal. So you'll have a small journal and a mini album all together. So first you want to cut 4 sheets at 5.5 by 8.5. So you're just going to be cutting your 8.5 by 11 sheets in half. Then you want to score 3 of the sheets at 5 inches. Now here you're going to see that I scored all 4 at 5 inches, and then I realized I should have cut that one at 5 inches. So you will want to go back and cut one at 5 inches, but this in the video here you can see where I realized that I had too many pages for this is making the accordion fold album or the Z-fold album part of this journal. And so once I put it together, I realized I was putting too many pages together, so I decided that 3 pages and then this one is your back page that attaches to your cover would be enough. So what you want to do then, you want to fold on each one of those score lines, and you want to put the book together by adding glue onto your fold line, and then you're going to attach it, not the 2 folds together, but the side that doesn't have the score line. You're going to attach it to one of the folds, and the other fold will be on the on the right hand side. And so you want to be sure that your folds are going opposite directions, and I'm going to show you again in just a moment what I'm talking about. I'll hold it up and show you, but when you fold it in, if you want one to be folding inwards and one to be folding outwards when you put it together, so that you'll get your accordion album together correctly. And so I'm going to show you, once I glue it together, I will hold it up again and I will show you the opposite direction when I add the next one. So you can see how that one is pointing away from the pages. So the next one then needs to be pointing towards me, or so it's going to be folded in towards the page. And so then you add the glue again just to your fold, and you will attach your paper again. And when you attach your paper, be sure that it folds over onto the paper, and that your whole little booklet can still fold. So you do not want to actually put it together on the fold line, just right up against the fold line. And so you can hear again, I can show you that my folds are going opposite directions so that you can make your Z fold for your album or your accordion fold. And so this last page is the one that I decide I have too many pages, and so it just needs to be the back page that is glued to the cover. And so once I look through it and realize I have too many pages, I decide that I'm going to trim that little 1/2 inch off. So I will trim it off so that it's not in the way. Okay, so now that you have your album started, now I'm just going to mark about 4 1/4, 4 1/2 up from the bottom of the page. And this is just a guide. I'm not going to actually stick with this. I'm just trying to use this as a guide to keep myself from going too low for my first page when I draw the line. So I start at the upper corner on the 3rd page, or the 3rd sheet that we attached, and I start drawing a diagonal line down. And so mine wound up a little below the 4 1/2. It was around 4, 4 1/4, and so it doesn't matter, just so that you don't make your first page too small. And so around 4 is a good size. And so then I just take my scissors and I trim along the line that I drew using my ruler. And so your back page will still be 5 by 8.5, and your other 3 pages are going to be different sizes now. And you see when it folds up, the look that you get there, and I love that. It's like a Z fold. I'm pretty sure that's what they call it. And so that layered look, and that's going to work perfect for how we're going to make this album. So now I'm attaching a piece of paper from the kit, and I printed everything on 110-pound cardstock, and I'm using 110-pound cardstock to make my Z-fold album. And so what I'm doing is I am just marking where my line is, and I'm going to cut it 1/8 of an inch below it. If you notice, when I held the paper to it, I had 1/8 inch all around it. Then I drew my line, and then I'm cutting below that line 1/8 of an inch. So I have about 1/8 of an inch, or an eyeballed 1/8 of an inch, around the whole piece that's going on the first page. And I just wanted a little white border. And so this is an oval from the kit that I cut out. And so what I've done is I have, with my Sizzix Big Shot, I've cut out with a die this lacy scalloped oval, and I'm just adding it to the front of the oval. And I have to work with it for just a bit because this oval is not the exact same shape as the oval from the kit. The oval from the kit was a little narrow compared to the oval that I cut out that's wider. So if you just work with it and glue it and just, it wasn't too far off, so I was able to work with it and make it fit just fine. And I thought it turned out beautiful on it. And so this first page is really going to be a decorative page. It's not going to have a purpose of holding tags or drawing or journaling or anything like that. And I first tried to put some ink on it. It's not really showing up, so I didn't want to really go really dark with the ink, so I decided that I'm not going to ink my pages because these are just so beautiful on their own. They don't need anything added. So now I'm just adding that little first page, the decorative page, to the first page of my little Z-fold album, and I absolutely love this piece of paper. And so then I'm going to put the oval on top, and I'm going to just arrange some of the flowers from the Fussy Cut or the Ephemera Kit and the butterfly from the Ephemera Kit for this page. And so I decided that I'm going to add the oval, and what I'm going to do is I'll glue the bottom half of the oval onto the page, and then I will arrange my flowers and butterfly and attach them in. And there is so much from this kit that you'll have plenty to make this. I may have printed, I think I finally printed 2 sheets of this sheet of flowers so that I could do all the flowers, and maybe a 3rd sheet for the cover. I can't remember now, but there are so many that, you know, on each sheet that it was plenty to get this done. And I just fussy cut all of these out by hand. I did not machine cut them or anything. I kind of like what they call a kiss cut, where you don't cut all the way up to the line of the actual image. I just left some white around each flower, and I didn't, I didn't worry about being real particular with it, because I think when you put them all together, you don't notice all that, and I think it looks really good the way, just cutting them out with a little white around them, a little border. And so the butterfly I did cut against the lines because I felt like it needed that. So for the second page, I'm not done with the first, but I want to do the second page since it's going to have some flowers sticking up as well, so that I could go back and finish decorating the front. So for the second one, I decided I'd try something different and use the paper left over from when when we cut off the journal, just to see. And once again, I left the paper on the page, leaving around about 1/8 of an inch around each side, and then drawing the line, or the marking the line where I wanted to cut. And then when I go to cut, I'm going to cut it 1/8 of an inch smaller than what that line mark is. And once again, I didn't really measure 1/8 of an inch. I just sort of eyeballed it because I just wanted a little bit of white framing out the page. And there's so many flowers and things and decoration on the page that it's not going to show up if you don't go exact. This is not something you have to do exact. And so for this one, I am going to be adding more flowers to the back side of the page, and then this page is going to have a little flap. So I want to arrange my flowers and see, kind of get, before I glue the page down, kind of get an idea of where all my flowers are going to go. And I'm trying to find flowers that will kind of line up with the front flowers, but I don't want the exact thing on the first and second page, the same flowers. So I'm just kind of finding some that have about the same shape, so that there's not a lot of white sticking through to the other side when you see the back side of the flower. So that's why I'm going to go back and add a few more decorations once I get this arranged, though. And so right there, I felt like I needed something to fill it in. So I put the ladybug at first, but you'll see that I do change that out in just a moment. So each page I have to do a little differently depending on how the page is going to be and how the flower is going to be. So for this one, I tacked down the flowers just a little bit. Well, actually, no, I may have just glued these, yes. So for this page, I did just glue on top of the flowers, and then when I add the paper to the page, that's what's going to hold the flowers down until I get everything arranged the way I want it. And then I'll go back and glue everything down tightly so nothing moves around. And I love how these little flowers look sticking up. I loved all the flowers in the kit. This is an absolutely gorgeous kit. And I can see myself using this kit in a lot more projects. And so this kit is not one that you'll just use for one project, but you can use in many projects. And so still I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to put in that little gap. And I finally landed on this set of flowers because I just needed something to fill in that white space. I just didn't want a lot of white in behind there. I wanted it to look like a really full flower garden. And so that's what this whole journal is supposed to be, just like a whole flower garden, flowers blooming up everywhere. And so now I'm going back to the front because there is some white showing, and I want to add some color behind my butterfly and make everything really pop and not have a lot of white. So I add a little card from the ephemera kit, and then I'm adding one of the circles from the Linedotarrow Anniversary Kit. It's just to fill in some color there. And this is one you just have to fussy with and keep moving things around until it just matches what looks good to your eye and makes you feel like, you know, everything is balanced out. And so that's what I do. I just sort of rearrange and rearrange them until I finally get them where I want them, and then I just stick them down with some glue. And so then I'll go back and I just glue, because you are going to have a gap in between those flowers and everything where you just glued it onto the front pages. So now I just go back and I add glue in between and get everything stuck down really good so that nothing is going to move around or slide apart or come apart. Okay, so now I'm going to be adding the flap to this page. And so I've just cut a piece of paper down from the kit, and then this is one of the cards from the kit. And so the paper is about, I'm thinking about a 1/2 inch wider. So what you'll have to do is, depending on your printer, is going to be how big your paper needs to be. So you can see that I have a border around it. So I want about an 1/8 inch around it. So you make your paper a 1/4 inch bigger, and then it's about a 1/4 inch flap. So so I've cut it all like that, and then I'm gluing my flap down. And so this flap, that way you can open it up in journal, or you can add a picture or whatever you want to do there. And so, and the card, if you notice, I only glued on 3 sides and then I glued halfway up the card because I'm going to put little tags in it. I didn't want my tags to get lost in that pocket. So the front card's going to be a pocket, and then you've got the flap. And so I'm trying to add a bunch of little things into this one little Z-fold album, so you have plenty of places for journaling and for cards and for adding whatever you wanted to add to it. And so I didn't like the starkness of this straight line onto the page where the flap was. So I decided I didn't want to cover up my white side because I thought it'd be perfect for journaling. But I did decide to add just a piece of muslin that I just tore down, and then I cut to fit. I will cut to fit this little spot, and kind of just add some texture and add something to the page here. And so it really covers up the whole starkness of the flap. And then at the top, I wasn't happy with how it just abruptly stops. So I decided to find a little butterfly, and I think this little butterfly is from the ephemera kit. And so when I put it in here, I'm trying to adjust it so that I make sure that it looks right, but also when I close the flap that it will close correctly. So once I have it figured out, I do add the butterfly to the top of the little strip of muslin, and I close the flap to make sure it will still close. And I think the butterfly looks adorable with the flowers. So for the next page, I will be adding one of the envelopes from the kit to the page, and the envelope will be a pocket as well as an envelope, so I'll only glue on 3 sides when I attach it to the page. That way it can hold tags and things, and the envelope itself can hold something. So right now I'm just using some ephemera from the kit to decorate the envelope. I did bring out a book page and tear it down to add just a little strip there, just to add a little something to the little cluster that I'm going to be putting on the envelope. And so this kit, like I've said before, has so many little things that you really don't have to go searching in your ephemera for anything. You can make little clusters with all the little bits and pieces that come with the kit. So that's what I'm doing here. And this little cluster is also going to be the little flap that's a little closure for the envelope. So what it's going to do is just going to be in the right place so that it will keep my envelope shut without having to use anything else to hold it shut, and then you can open and close it that way. And so I thought that would be a good way to keep the flap of the envelope closed, but also make it very decorative. And I really love all the little bits and pieces that's in this kit, so I enjoyed decorating, and that's my favorite part anyway. Is I love making albums, and I love making junk journals and anything and cards and things, but my favorite part is the building is fine, but my favorite part is decorating. I love to come up with ways to decorate and just decorate all the bits and pieces. So this album was a lot of fun for me to be able to decorate each and every one of the little bits and pieces that goes in it. And so I realized that I wanted to add a little bit of lace that I had laying on my table. I decided that it would look good under the little cluster. And so I'm just adding that to add a little bit more to this little envelope. And I'm using Fabri-Tac on the lace since that will hold it down better than, well, I guess it will hold it better than the Bearly Art glue. I've always just used Fabri-Tac on anything that is fabric. And then I use the Bearly Art glue on anything that's just paper to paper. And so anytime I'm adding fabric to paper, I do use the Fabri-Tac. And so here I'm just using the Bearly Art glue because I'm just attaching the little cluster to the envelope. So it's paper to paper. And I do not glue all the way up on the cluster. I am gluing, leaving just a little space unglued. That way the flap will fit behind the cluster to keep it closed. So for the next page, what I'm doing is I just laid a piece of paper onto the page, and then I'm cutting it down to fit. But all the pages are 5 inches wide, so I'm cutting them down to about 4 3/4, and then it will vary as to how tall it's going to be. So every page is about 4 3/4 wide, but so I can have that eighth of an inch around each side. And then, like the first few pages that I've already showed you, what I do is I just mark where the page goes across the paper, and then I'm going to cut an eighth of an inch smaller just so I will have that eighth of an inch border on my page. It felt really bad to have to cover up all these sheets of pages that was from the kit because they are also gorgeous. So I'm going to have to go back and make something else with this kit just so I can see all the pages and not have to cover them up. But when I saw this kit, I knew it would be gorgeous for this album. So I had to use it for this one. But the pages are so gorgeous, you don't really need to be covering them up with anything. So once again, for this page, I am adding some flowers to the top. And with your flowers, don't hesitate to cut them apart. You know, cut bits and pieces off of each one. And that's what I'm having to do so that I can use them here and so that they will work out for each page. Because if I used that whole piece there, the pink flowers would have been lost below the actual page. So I just cut it apart so I could use both. They have the yellow and white showing as well as the pink. And so you can just cut your flowers up and use them bits and pieces so that you can make it work for your pages, and they're still just as gorgeous. So once I have the flowers where I want them, I just take glue and add it to the page itself, the decorative paper that's going on the page, and I use that to hold the flowers in place. And then I will go back and I will glue the flowers down to the actual page, the white part of the page, and I'll glue that down to that. I think it's easier for them not to move if I just glue the paper down first and then go in behind there and glue the flowers directly down to the page. So now for this page, I am adding the envelope that I decorated up. I'm adding it to the front of the page. For this one, I'm actually gluing on 3 sides so that the top is a pocket. And then I am decorating up, just adding a little piece of lace to the top of one of the cards that comes in the kit. It didn't need any other decoration, I felt like. I just went ahead and added a little bit of lace to the top so it'll be a little pull tab to pull it out of the pocket. And then the back of it has got plenty of space for writing and journaling or adding a picture or whatever you want to do with that. So the little tag that went in it, I felt like didn't need anything. It's such a beautiful thing. I love all these cards in the kit. And so she has has them in several different sizes in the kit as well, so there's a good variety of sizes and cards in the kit. And so I'm just laying aside to dry, and then I'll add it in later. And so now I'm turning around and working on the back pages, some of the back pages of where you see from the front. I want to go ahead and work on those and get my flowers arranged so that everything looks good. And this time I'm deciding to use a whole sheet. I'm going to cut it down, but one's going to be one half of the sheet's going to be on one side of the page, and the other half is going to be on the other page. Once again, I cut it down to 4 3/4, and then I will determine the size by the slant of the page. And for every page, that's how I'm going to measure. I'm just going to measure the slant and cut 1/8 of an inch smaller. And if you notice, I leave 1/8 of an inch from the bottom, or an eyeball 1/8 of an inch, so that I have that border. And so then I will just cut it 1/8 of an inch smaller than what I mark it. And each one will be a little bit different, and yours will be different depending on how you drew your line, and it'll be just a little bit different. It could be a little different than mine if your line is not exactly the same angle as mine, but it's pretty simple to measure and then just add it to your page. And so this one, I'm just doing it in like a spread, a 2-page spread, working on both pages at the same time, just so that I can get these two, since it's going to be side by side and I'm using the paper that connects, I wanted to get both of these done together. Sometimes there's really no rhyme or reason to how I put it together, like what pages I do when. On some of these, I just wanted to go and do the page and try out whatever technique it was that I was wanting to do, or whatever pocket I was wanting to add, and then I go back and finish all the other pages. I really just enjoy myself making this, and so what I did was just turn on the camera, didn't worry about teaching it or anything, just turn on the camera, let you watch me make it, and then I come back and try to explain to you what all I was doing and some of the measurements, so that if you want to make one, you can. And hopefully if you make one, be sure to tag me on Instagram or Facebook. On Instagram, you can tag me at Making Crafts Studio, and I'll have the link below to my Instagram and also to my Facebook. On Facebook, I'm Making Crafts and Making Crafts Studio. So if you want to tag me on there so I can see what you make, I would love to see if you try to make this. I would love to see yours. I love to be able to see what everybody else makes, and even if yours doesn't turn out exactly like mine, you do yours different, but mine was an inspiration. I would love to see what you do, and I would love to see what you make, because that's the reason I do this, is to encourage others to make something, and maybe I sometimes may come up with something a little different than somebody else, and hopefully that encourages you to try something different, and I would love to see what it encourages you to do. Sometimes I just see something of somebody's, and it gives me an idea to make something. When I get done, it's totally different from what theirs look like, but theirs was the inspiration for it, if that makes sense. So I would love to see anything that I inspire you to do. Just tag me and let me know that I inspired you to try it, and I'd love to see what you come up with. And so once again, I'm just working on these pages and adding more flowers and making sure everything. Now I do close the book up. You'll see me close it up several times before I added the flowers. I just wanted to make sure that all the flowers are going to line up and look good in that Z fold together and look like a little garden. And so then I'm just making a flap. It's just a little piece that's going to open up that will be a place for a picture or for journaling. And so it's also going to be a pocket as well. If you'll notice, everything in this little album is a pocket. I'm trying to have plenty of space to tuck things and to journal. So this is just a simple little flap that I'm going to add to that page, and then I just take some cream cardstock and I round the corners and I add that inside the flap, so you have a journaling spot, or it can frame out a picture if you want to add a picture in here. And so I wanted to leave this open where people could use this as anybody, or whoever gets this could, not really people, but whoever gets this could use it for photos or for journaling. And you could put a picture at the top of the flap and journal at the bottom about the picture. So I just wanted to make sure that there was a lot of options of putting things in this little journal. And I think this would be a great summertime journal, just to document your summertime, and or to document your little garden. If you grow lots of flowers and things and you wanted to take pictures and document the growth of all that. So, and I think this would be awesome too, though, for documenting your summer, because it's so summery and so many florals and just so pretty. And who knows, I may have to keep it. I may not be able to sell this one. I keep thinking I'll probably sell it, but I'm not sure that I can let this one go. I may have to make a second one to sell, but because I really love this. I really love how it turned out. But I'm trying not to keep making so many journals and keep them all for myself because I can only use so many albums and so many journals. So I'm not sure yet, but this one may be going up for sale in my shop. So I really like to fussy with the flowers and get them just lined up what looks right for my eye. There's no rhyme or reason to how I do them, just what looks right to me. The only rule to it, I would say, is to be sure that your pages will open and close. You don't want flowers sticking out that would be in the way of your page closing because eventually those flowers are going to get bent up. So you do want to close up your pages to make sure all the flowers are out of the way of the actual score line, the fold line of your pages. Because if not, then when you close it up, like I said, it's going to bend up your flowers and it won't look so good. And it'll also hinder your album from closing really good. So that's really the only rule to it. The rest is just seeing what looks good to my eye. And right here, I realized that I had used a butterfly on every single one of these that you could see from the front of the book. So I thought, well, the third one should have a butterfly, and I love this large butterfly here. So I did have to fussy with it a bit to make sure that it was positioned right, that it didn't look out of place with the other three, and that it was positioned in a nice spot. And so I think it looks pretty good. I didn't want all the butterflies going in the same direction either. I don't know why. It's just something about my eye. I wanted at least one turned a different direction. And so for this little flap that I made, it was just a piece of paper cut down and then folded over. For it, I'm just decorating it up with a little scallop circle that I cut out on my Big Shot. And then it's the decorative circle is actually from the kit. And so I was just going to put a decoration there. And then it hit me, why not use this as another tuck spot? So I'm just adding glue to a little less than half of this little scallop circle. And that way I can tuck some itty bitty tags in there. And that's the thing, this kit also comes with the itty bitty tags. It comes with lots of little tags. And so I'm just tucking the little bitty tags into that pocket. And as you'll see, when I'm putting this together, you'll see me tuck tags in different spots. I'm going to go back afterwards and I will punch holes in each one of the tags and add a little string or a little ribbon. And so I'm not going to leave the tags plain like this, but just to be sure that I kind of set those tags aside for that spot, I went ahead and tucked them into the spots as I was making the journal. And then I'll just go back. And then I may go back and add a few decorations here and there once I finish up. Because always when I finish up a journal, I go back and I'll see that somewhere needs just a little bit of something. And so maybe a little piece of lace here or just a little flower there or a little butterfly a certain spot. So once I finish the journal, then I will go back and tweak it just a little bit more. And this is a little bird. Here you'll see me adding flowers, but this is also a little bird from the kit. And so since this two-page spread had feathers and had birds on it, I decided to go with the little bird theme on these pages. And that's the little circle with the scallop. It has a bird on it. And so then I added the little blue bird up in the flowers. And so what I'm doing with this page is I'm just going to take and tuck the page under the little blue bird's feather, and a little part of the flower will stick over it. Now, on some of the pages, I just did that. Like on the other page, you can see that the butterfly is sticking over the page. Most of the pages, most of the flowers or the details that I'm adding to the page at the top there are tucked under. But a few spots, I do have some things tucked over. And I think that just adds a little bit more to it and adds a little bit more interest to the page. And here I'm trying to decide if I want that flower tucked under or over. And I do decide that the leaf of the flower is tucked over, but the rest of the flower is tucked under. But I think that adds interest to it to have the certain parts tucked over like that. And then for this page, I am adding one of the smaller envelopes. It's just a little bitty coin envelope. And so what I'm doing for it is I'm just decorating up with another little scallop circle that I cut out on my Sizzix Big Shot. And then a circle from the actual kit is layered on top of that. And then I'm using little bitty Velcro dots. And these Velcro dots, I'm just using them to hold it together. And they have plenty of adhesive on them already. So I am just attaching them with the adhesive that came on them and no other glue. And so then I'm just attaching them to the envelope. And then for this envelope, I'm going to glue on the top, one of the sides, and the bottom. And it will be a tuck spot just on the side there. And if you'll see for this page, I tried to line it up with the blue lace that's on the print of the page. I kind of wanted just to line up with that little bit. And so I did decide just to put one of the little cards that came in the kit behind it. Okay, so now I'm working on the back page of the book, and that is the page that we did not cut a slant into, that we kept it the complete size, 5 by 8.5. And so what I'm going to make on it is a little flap booklet, for better words. I'm not really sure how to call it. So I had one idea in my head, and when I got to playing with the papers, I decided that I wanted to try something different. So instead of doing what was exactly in my head, I started playing around. And this is something I haven't done before. I've made them a different way before when you have these flaps, and I really right at the moment cannot think of the term for it, where they're layered up. And normally they are layered from, the flaps will open from top to bottom, and all of them are the same size. But I got to playing with this, and I decided that I wanted to try having them kind of open like a book and start with the smallest one and move up to the largest one. So what I've done is I have just attached them to a piece of paper that is, the first two, the piece of paper is about 1/4 of an inch larger than, and it may be closer to 1/2 of an inch larger than the actual page. It's on one side, and so I glued those cards to the actual edge. And then for this one, I think it's a little over an inch larger. And then I just take my scoring tool and I score right up against the actual card. So there's no exact measurement. You just need to leave yourself enough little flap on two of them, the two larger ones, so that you can glue them inside of the smaller one. So the smaller one, you do need about 1 inch to make everything work. And so this little flap, I have just scored them right along the edge of the card, so there's no border around the cards for the paper that I attached them to. And so I did attach them to paper that I printed on both sides. I wanted the back and front printed, because at first I was going to have a border. It would not have had to be that way now. It could have only just been printed on the back. And I used some of the paper from the kit that would be awesome for journaling. It's more of a, it's just a, as you can see, it's just got different little colors in it, but it's light enough and there's no design, so you can easily write on it. And so what I did was I attached the two smaller flaps together, and then they're attached onto the larger flap. So they're attached on top of each other and into the larger flap. And then the larger flap is going to attach to the page, but I'm going to add another one of the cards from the kit to that flap. So the little bit that's left sticking out, which is a little bit over 1/2 of an inch, I'm adding another card to from the kit. And so once again, this little card is going to attach the whole little booklet to the page, but it's going to be another pocket for this page. So I'm just attaching glue to the flap and to 3 sides of the little card. And then I'm just attaching it to the page. And hopefully that wasn't too confusing. If it is, just rewind and rewatch it again. And all it is you're attaching the two flaps from the larger ones together. They're on top of each other onto the flap of the smaller one. And then you're just attaching this little flap on the inside. And so then that little flap is actually able to hold, that little card, I keep calling it a flap, the little card that you attach on the inside is actually able to hold a pretty large size tag. And so that's also from the kit. And then I decided that it was a little plain, because I want this album to be really dolled up. So it was a little plain, so I decided to add just a little piece of lace on the inside at the length of the card. And once again, I'm using Fabri-Tac because I'm using a fabric or lace to the paper. And I really loved how this little flap turned out. I really fussy with it for a while and couldn't decide if I was going to like it. And I did make sure that each one of my flaps, if you'll see how they're layered, you can see the edge of each one of the flaps when it's closed, and that's what I was going for, is so that you could see each one of the designs. So then I'll just attach this to the back page, and then I'm working, and that'll eventually add that to the back page. You'll see later on in the video when I do add that, but then I'm working on the page beside it. And like I said, there was no rhyme or reason to which pages I did first. It was just which ones I felt like I wanted to do to make sure it all flowed together nicely. And so this one, once again, I'm just adding flowers that's going to somewhat match the flowers on the back of it, since when you close it up, you will get to see the back of these flowers. And this piece of paper was so gorgeous, and I really thought there was a lot of flaps, a lot of pockets, a lot of things in this album already, and so I just wanted to feature this page on its own. So I decided there was a print of lace, it looked like blue lace around the little card on that page, so I decided to add blue lace as a belly band and just have this page have a belly band where you could tuck lots of other things in, more envelopes, because there's more envelopes in the kit. So I felt like I could use some of those to tuck in this belly band, and any of the leftover cards and the journaling cards and bits and pieces. I thought it'd be great to have a place for those in this kit. And you could also add pictures. If you were using this as a summer album to add pictures, you could add a picture to this page, or you could add, something with pictures in it and then add it into this belly band. So I like to have a little belly band somewhere in the album so you have plenty of room to tuck things. And so then I'm just adding the lace to the front and back of the page before I glue it on. And that way it kind of stays put better. If it gets any stress on it when you're tucking more things in, it's not as apt to come loose. So that's what I like to wrap it around whenever I get a chance. Sometimes once you've already got a journal put together, you can't do that. You just have to attach it to the front of the page. But for this, I figured since I hadn't added the decorative paper yet, I could just go ahead and glue it on the back side. And I do add a little bit more Fabri-Tac to the lace so that when I attach it to the page, it does stick well. So here I'm adding the last page, the last decorative page, to the last page of the Z-Fold album. And for this one, you will notice I cut it the entire size. I did not have a border around it. And that's because it's going to be attaching inside of the cover, and so I wanted to have a solid page here to attach inside the cover so it sort of blended in with the back of the cover. And as you'll see, I've decided to start adding a little bit more decoration to the page, the belly band page. I do pull out a few more little things from the kit, and I start adding that to the page. And I do that throughout the process of this. I'll go back, and as I've finished one page, I'll look and I'm like, okay, something needs to be added to that page, and I add it. And so I really just have a lot of fun with these. And like I said, the decoration and decorating these is my favorite part. I love building things, but when the decorating is what really is a lot of fun for me. So I do a lot of times stop and start adding more decorations and get sidetracked on when I'm working on one page and I see another page, I feel like it needs something else, I'll get sidetracked and work on that as well. Now for this one, under the belly band, I'm just using another one of the little envelopes from the kit, and I am decorating it up once again with just ephemera from the kit and some muslin, a little strip of muslin, and just decorating it up so that it adds a little bit more to the journal. So now I'm starting to work on the decoration for the cover, and I add a scalloped oval to, there was a card from the kit, I cut it as an oval, and then I added a scalloped oval that I had cut out with my Sizzix Big Shot, just like the one for the first page. And then I did print out another sheet of flowers so that I could decorate around this oval. And what I'm doing is just cutting out the flowers and adding them to the oval, and just trying to get the flowers to follow the shape of the oval but not be an exact oval, if that makes sense. And so I just fussy with it for a while to make sure there's no gaps and to add the flowers. And you'll see that I'm cutting the flowers this time. I really need the flowers to be small so they'll stick out and you can see them all. So what I do is I cut a lot of them down and then use the pieces that I cut off the bottom, I'll use behind the oval as well. And so it's kind of like flower arranging. You have to just arrange the flowers so that everything looks good to your eye and that it has a flow to it. And so for this, it needed to flow around the oval like these flowers were growing around the oval. So I that's that's what I did. I just kept rearranging them so that they looked like they were growing and blooming out from the actual oval. And I did cut a butterfly from one of the cards. I had another card that was just like this one that I cut the oval from. And so I just cut the butterfly out of that card so that it would match when I put him on the little flowers. And so I'm just adding the oval on top of the flowers to kind of hold them in place. And then I will go back and I will add more glue to all of the flowers because there is another oval. I cut an oval just a little bit larger than the and the lacy oval that I cut on my 6-inch Big Shot. It's an actual oval set that comes together and they layer up in different sizes. So I went ahead and just cut a little bit larger oval to go behind this so that I could sandwich the flowers in between the decorative oval on the front and then that oval that's on the back. And that gives me a way to glue the flowers down and to sandwich them in between these two pieces so that they really stay in place. And I do go back and make sure everything's glued in tight. And once I have everything arranged like I want to, then I do make sure they're not going to move because I need to glue them to the, so they actually got glued to the front oval but not the back oval. So then I have to just go in behind there and glue them down to that back oval so that everything sticks really tight. So I think the back oval helps to finish it off and to help sandwich everything together. And then for the cover, I have a different video for that. Since this video is so long, putting this album together, in another video I will show you how to make this cover. And that paper is actually from the kit, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It made a gorgeous cover. And I've already got another idea of a project that I am going to use that piece of paper to make a cover, another cover, because I think it is so pretty. So I will show you in another video how I made this cover though. This cover went through quite a few changes. At first I thought it was going to be a white cover, but then when I saw this sheet from the kit, when I was flipping through the sheets after I printed them, it all changed. So you will see that later in the other video how I did make the cover. So I'm just adding a piece of wide lace to the spine. I always like to have fabric or lace on the spine. I originally thought I would be putting canvas on the spine, but when I got this piece on the cover, I decided that I definitely wanted to use the little lace. So I'm adding the lace to the spine with my Fabri-Tac, and then I'm just folding it over to the inside, and I'm trimming it to match where the paper comes over on the inside of the cover. And as you can see, the cover is not finished yet on the inside because I did decide to change the papers on the inside. So I will be adding another page in here for the left-hand side. So I'm just adding the lace here, and then I will add the album you saw when we made the Z-fold album. That back page will be glued on the right-hand side, and then on the left-hand side, I'm going to put another piece of paper with a belly band, and you'll see that in just a moment. But then I'm just using the Fabri-Tac to just tack the lace down. And I don't tack the lace solid down. I just glue it down first through the center, and then I come back and I'll glue up under the edge there and attach it. That way I've got room to work with it as I'm putting it on the book, and then I can come back and once I have everything where I want it, then I can just glue it down and have it finished. And then this is just this little decorative piece we just made. I am adding it to the front of the album, and it does stick out in places, and that's fine. I was wanting it to be sticking out because you're going to see that the flowers in the other album stick out as well. And so this is the page I was talking about that I'm adding to the kit. So what I did is I've added another piece of lace, and so I have glued it over to the back. Like I said before, that way if stress is put upon it, then it should not come loose. And so I've added Fabri-Tac to it as well, and I'm just adding it to the front cover here. And so that's going to hold a little journal, and it's just a little bitty writing journal, nothing too extravagant, just a writing journal, so that if you do use this to document your summer, then you have plenty of place to write about, you know, what all you did, your travels, and you could even draw in that little journal, or you could collage in the little journal and add different things to it as well. So for the back cover, you will see that I added glue, but then I decided this is going to have a lot of stress on it. So I did the glue, but I also added the double-sided sticky tape because I want this to really stay put. And I'm not gluing the whole thing down because it is actually going to be a pocket as well. Like I said, I want this album to have tons and this journal to have tons of pockets. So I'm just gluing 3 sides, and then the right hand side of it will actually be a large pocket to put large tags in or photos or different things in. So that's how that's why I only glued on the 3 sides. I was really happy with how this journal turned out, and I had a lot of fun making it. Please be sure to like this video and be sure to subscribe to my channel. I will be uploading another video in the upcoming week showing you how to make the cover for this journal, and I'll also be doing a complete flip through of this journal since I did go back and add a few decorations after I made the video of creating the journal. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.